no landlord can file an eviction until the expiration of the moratorium, which is now extended to June 11th. So that means that your landlord can't file a case at the court until after June 11th. So does that mean that your landlord can serve you papers on June 12th? Not necessarily. For non-payment of rent cases, the executive order also includes a prohibition against a landlord giving written demand for possession for the non-payment of rent. So that paper, also known as a notice to quit, tells the tenant that they have 7 days to either pay the amount that is owed for rent or vacate the premises without court action. So at the expiration of that 7 days, that's when you can be served with those papers. So those are essentially the two things that the Michigan's executive order does. The CARES Act moratorium is a little bit different. So it, unlike Michigan, which applies to the whole state, the CARES Act moratorium applies to, as the statute refers to it, covered properties. Now, covered properties include federally subsidized housing, such as HUD-based, Section 8, project-based, or a housing choice voucher. But it also includes other federal programs that you might not be aware of, like if the developer used federal funds to build, the building you're living in, that could qualify too. Or if the property that you're living in has a federally backed mortgage, such as Freddie Mae or Freddie Mac. There's a website to find out if you do live in a property that is under the CARES Act, and that's nlihc.org/federal moratoriums. So what it does is it, just like the Michigan one, it says that the landlord can't file an eviction case, but it goes until July 25th. And the second thing that it does is that it also requires the landlord to give you 30 days notice before filing that court case. So instead of the 7 days under Michigan law, you now have to give you 30-day notice. And the third thing it does is it bars the landlord from charging you late fees or any other charge that's related to the non-payment of rent. So you need to be careful as to agreeing to something, if you do, that it doesn't include those late fees as well. It's important to remember that neither of them forgive rent. Okay, so rent is still due. It just delays when your landlord can go file a court case against you. Also really important is that there's no self-help evictions in Michigan. Those are illegal. That means that the landlord can't physically remove you from the property, can't change the locks, and cannot turn the utilities off on you. If that happens, make sure you contact an attorney, because that should not be going on right now. If you can't pay the rent, there's a number of things that you can do. First is to just talk to your landlord. My 7 years of experience in landlord-tenant court, the majority of landlords are reasonable and appreciate that heads up. You might be able to avoid court altogether, but be careful about agreeing to anything that's not in writing, and anything that includes those charges, such as the late fee. You'll learn about your rights. There's a lot of guides out there that can give you access to your rights as well as the law. And then talk to an attorney. There are free legal services out there that you can take advantage of. Some are income limited, but definitely talk to that attorney if you're unsure. And if you're served, show up to court. Otherwise, you're going to get a default judgment, which can affect your credit and also your ability to find housing in the future. Where you can access, Street Democracy has posted guides that you can find a list of all these resources. It'll list all the places that you can find the free guides, what the law is, what your rights are, as well as where you can possibly find a free legal attorney. And that can be found at streetdemocracy.org. And again, that's streetdemocracy.org.
The 36th District Court has a moratorium on evictions that goes through the 12th of June. It's 1 day longer than what the governor's order is. So as a result of that, it should be Monday, June 15, before a bailiff would arrive at the door of anyone who has a writ that's been signed. Now, there are people who may have a judgment but don't have a writ yet, so they would have a little bit more time. Other cities within the state would be following the governor's order, which would might enable the bailiffs to come out on Friday, June 12th. So there is a little bit difference one day between City of Detroit and the rest of the state. The United Community Housing Coalition has been doing a few things during the pandemic. We sent out 2,600 letters to people who had landlord-tenant judgments from 36th District Court from February through March 13. We've had 282 callbacks from those people. We've been calling them and dealing with them on their rent. We have a grant. We were lucky to get a grant to help people pay their rent that's due during the pandemic. So we have been negotiating with landlords and the attorneys for the landlords to get agreements from the other side that upon payment of rent, any writs that might be executed are not going to go forward. And also that cases would be dismissed. And we have the ability to help people with judgments, existing judgments, who have been affected by COVID and are not able to pay rents. And if you want help with that and you have an existing judgment, you can call us. Our number for that is 313-355-3352, or you can email us at eviction@uchcdetroit.org. So that's where you can get help on that.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.